Right now, the National Weather Desk tracking the tropics. We're watching 3 areas in the Atlantic, plus a rare hurricane targeting Southern California.
Look at all the rain coming on into Southern California here.
Hot classrooms searching for solutions to extreme temperatures at urban heat island schools.
Shondas wants to understand how a school building's design is impacted by the heat.
Super scoopers, why these titans of the air are so effective at fighting wildfires.
They can carry 1,400 gallons of water, the equivalent of 3 fire engines.
How a rain-soaked summer sprouted a great mushroom crop.
That's why I like to say, when it rains, it spores.
Plus, the surprising large impact contrails from airplanes have on our climate.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. This morning we're watching tropical development in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, including a hurricane that could hit Southern California. But we start in the Atlantic, where 3 systems have the potential to develop into tropical storms, including one in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's where meteorologist Michael Inrenberg begins our team coverage.
20% chance this develops. That will likely move towards the Texas or Louisiana Gulf Coast. Low pressure trough, Central Atlantic, 50% development chance. That could become a depression by the weekend or early next week. And a similar situation for that tropical wave near the Cape Verde Islands. Both right now look like they're heading to the west-northwest and northwest and will likely stay out at sea. The Saharan air layer in the dry air is likely to thin somewhat. That's why the development chances have gone up for both systems later this week and on into early next week. Taking a look at models, European model indicates some spin again going on in that area, but in the long range, they turn this system out to sea while that system in the Gulf moves into Texas and also Louisiana.
And in the Pacific, all eyes are on Hilary, upgraded to a hurricane this morning. It has maximum winds of 75 miles an hour and appears to be headed to the Southern California coast. Meteorologist Chris Kuiper shows us what could happen next.
Monday here, 5:30 in the evening. It's off the coastline. Look at all the rain coming on into Southern California here, even trying to sneak on into the San Joaquin Valley. We'll stop it here at 10 o'clock Monday. That's a band of some pretty solid rain coming right over Fresno. So that's something we'll certainly have to watch. Now, our computer models are varying a little. This is kind of my favorite model. A different model is wanting to take it a little further to the east, but they're all giving us rain. One particular model, the one we just looked at, this is the rain it's projecting for us by noon Tuesday. A lot of rain down towards Santa Barbara, but we should get rain. And then a different model is the more easterly model, is still giving us rain, although most of it more towards the desert and off to the east of the Sierra Nevada. The track is very important with this. We'll continue to fine-tune the track as Hilary gets closer to California.
And hundreds of wildfires are raging in parts of Canada's Northwest Territories. Officials are calling it a crisis situation. They have issued evacuation orders and declared a state of emergency as the fire threatens the capital city of Yellowknife. The fires are once again setting off air quality alerts today in the U.S. We're talking Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa will feel the biggest impacts, with areas surrounding western Lake Superior getting that unhealthy air. As Hawaii continues to recover from the devastating and deadly Maui wildfire, it's a wake-up call for many about the importance of being ready to respond to such emergencies. Lincoln Graves has more on what emergency management officials are doing as part of their ongoing preparedness efforts in Utah.
The Maui wildfires have been a stark reminder for everyone who lives in fire-prone areas.
The number one priority for an emergency manager is how to get information to the public, how to alert them to danger.
Catherine McMullen is Summit County's emergency manager. She was one of more than a dozen emergency officials from around the state attending a preparedness workshop in Colville.
What are the protocols for getting word out to people fast? How do you make sure that happens?
Well, we use emergency alerting. We have tools that allow us to communicate via the cell towers.
Alerts via cell phone are a primary notification method, and they rely on FEMA's National Alert System.
Works in much the same manner as an Amber Alert, where we can alert a high 90s percentile of cell phones within a given radius of a impacted cell tower.
Cell alerts, however, may not reach everyone. Old standards like the emergency alert system can also be deployed, but in a true large-scale emergency, officials say people need to be accountable for themselves.
It falls to individuals and families to have a plan.
Emergency managers say they have a critical role to play, but that emergency response is a shared responsibility, especially in a fast-moving emergency like a wildfire, when seconds matter.
And if you're waiting for a government official to tell you what to do, your life is in danger. So I think we have equal parts responsibility to be proactively prepared.
A Portland State University climate professor is studying the impact heat islands have on schools. These are areas of cities that see, extremely hot temperatures during heat waves due to a lack of green space and because there's simply so much concrete. Ricardo Lewis has that story.
And looks like we're coming in at not too bad, about 96. It takes a little while.
When a sweltering heat wave moves through the Pacific Northwest, Portland State University professor Vivek Chandes doesn't just sit at home. He goes out into the heat to look at ways it's playing out in Portland's heat islands.
We know that often people think they've been through one heat wave, they can go through others. But what we're really seeing is that every heat wave has a very unique signature.
Heat islands are areas of the city that are disproportionately hotter. On Tuesday, that professor was here at Jefferson High School using a heat stress monitor to check the temperature on the track and on the turf to compare them to adjacent neighborhoods.
About 140 degrees is what I'm seeing on that turf. One of the things about this area of Portland is that this is one of the areas that was historically redlined, meaning these are the areas that were historically disinvested in by the city.
Chandes is now studying the impacts of urban school heat islands.
Most of these schools were built at a time, particularly in Portland and the Pacific Northwest, when we weren't really keeping a lot of the conditions that we're seeing right now in mind.
He says many schools are built with brick and cinder block heat absorbers. Chandes wants to understand how a school building's design is impacted by the heat, which he says can also affect the overall learning experience.
And ultimately, what we want to do is start taking it to administrators at schools and asking questions about, did you know that kids are experiencing temperatures that are often 10, 20 degrees warmer in their school than they are in just an adjacent neighborhood?
And the heat doesn't just impact classrooms. It's a problem for school buses as well. San Antonio is expecting a high of 106 degrees today, forcing districts to make rapid adjustments for their buses with no air conditioning. Amanda Henderson takes a look at how they're tackling this problem.
This is a familiar staple for any district.
So the buses you see behind me are not going out on routes.
You might be saying, wait, why? Brian Benway with Bernie ISD explains.
These are not on route because they are non-air conditioned buses. 105 degrees outside could equate to 130, 140 or more degrees on the inside of that bus. And so that is something that we take absolutely serious.
So the district went to work to secure buses with air conditioning. An anonymous donor stepped up and offered the district 6 air-conditioned buses, but only for a week. Benway says they're working on a permanent solution. We got on the buses and quickly felt the heat's impact. So what is that temperature that you all as a district would say it's too hot?
And you start looking at a heat index pushing 105, 110. That's where the concern comes in.
Something a local doctor says can turn dangerous if the buses are stalled.
With parked cars, a car can increase in temperature up to 20 degrees Fahrenheit for every 10 minutes.
This is a situation San Antonio's largest school district is also facing.
Around 45% of our bus fleet is buses that are air conditioned.
District spokesman Barry Perez says they're hoping for cooler temperatures when they start school in 2 weeks. If not, they will prioritize air-conditioned buses by the length of the route and take into consideration if special needs students are on board.
That doesn't mean that every route is going to have an air-conditioned bus.
Reporting in San Antonio, I'm Amanda Henderson.
Ocean water in the Gulf of Mexico is the hottest on record. The report comes as coastal areas join much of the rest of the nation in this summer's blistering heat wave. That extreme heat is a concern really everywhere, but especially in the Gulf. That's because we are approaching peak hurricane season, and warmer water can intensify hurricanes and tropical storms. The intense heat stretches across the whole Gulf Coast, with both Houston and New Orleans recording their hottest periods ever within the last week. And if you're looking for more great weather content, be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Just search the NatWS Desk or the National Weather Desk right there on your screen. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, contrails from airplanes have a surprisingly large impact on our climate. We'll talk with an expert about how airplanes plan to use AI to reduce those impacts. And we'll head to southern New England to see how the wet summer has impacted mushroom crops.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We are tracking a variety of different weather conditions on your Thursday. 7 a.m. we're out of the gates with a lot of clouds, especially in New England. Notice the farther west you are, the more sunshine you're going to get, the greater chance for getting a shower. Notice the wide range in temperatures as well. That's about 1:30 in the afternoon. As we go into Friday, we're going to shift gears now to this cold front moving through. Widespread showers and thunderstorms are expected. Some thunderstorms may become severe.
I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Another warm day ahead of us. Plenty of sunshine with highs climbing through the mid and actually upper 80s by the end of the day. Still not dealing with humidity, at least. We are also tracking plenty of sunshine for your Thursday, although I'm also tracking our next cold front, our next weather maker. That's going to push in from the north and west, send us some spot showers, and then potentially a stray storm late Thursday into really early Friday morning. And that's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Birmingham, 88 degrees, 87 in Atlanta. Raleigh, 88 degrees, Macon, 92. Looking at 88 in Jacksonville, about 88 in Tampa. We're looking at plenty of sunshine through much of the day across the southeast. Looks like we'll stay mostly dry. It looks like after about 3 o'clock, definitely across Florida is going to be the area to get a lot of rain throughout the day and some thunderstorm activity. Can't rule out a stray shower across Raleigh, but other than that, nice and clear.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This meteor was captured streaking across the skies above Mobile, Alabama recently. It's not certain if this was part of the Perseids meteor shower. This rainbow shared the sky with lightning bolts in Bay Minette, Alabama. And if you crave open spaces, here's a recent view of Mission, South Dakota on a day with comfortable temperatures. But things are expected to heat up for the weekend.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Summertime in southern New England is pretty soggy this year, and more showers are expected over the next couple of days. But all that rain means a great season for wild mushroom hunting. Temi-Tope Adalea explains.
When it comes to mushroom hunting, Ryan and Emily Bouchard are experts, seeking and studying hundreds of different species.
Ryan and I formed the Mushroom Hunting Foundation about 10 years ago to teach people in America how to safely enjoy this hobby.
And when it comes to finding fungi in Rhode Island forests, what could have been a disappointing year turned around fast.
Well, this year, the spring was very dry. I don't know if it was technically drought conditions or what, but it was extremely dry, and that means very few mushrooms. There were some, of course, but they were more difficult to find.
But in July, that changed.
Once the summer rains hit, the mushrooms began to mushroom.
Storm Team 10 says this July was the second wettest on record for Rhode Island, with more than 8 inches of rain recorded at TF Green Airport in Warwick. Typically in July, we see closer to 3 inches of rain.
It's a lot of mushrooms lately because almost a direct result of the rain, the extra rain we've been having. It's pretty great.
That's why I like to say, when it rains, it spores.
They showed me a variety of different mushrooms they found in Lincoln in the span of 10 minutes.
Spores that come from the gills on this one are going to be pink when they actually appear.
They encourage people to reach out to them and do their research before hunting, because some mushrooms are dangerous to eat.
One thing to remember about this summer is that we're very lucky and it's very special. We haven't had this much rain in a very long time, and we may not see such an abundant mushroom season for a while.
And while the rain is good for mushrooms, thunderstorms are also known for their intense lightning. Meteorologist Emily Stanton takes a look at the dangers of lightning, where and when you are the most at risk, and things you can do to minimize your chances of being struck.
Here's the reality. The odds of being struck by lightning in a given year are low.
The CDC says it's less than 1 in a million, and thankfully, almost 90% of those victims survive. But there are things to keep in mind when it comes to thunderstorms. Lightning and thunder are paired together, and light travels much faster than sound. It takes 5 seconds for thunder to be heard a mile away from the lightning strike zone. It can generally be heard up to 10 miles away, meaning when you hear the clap of thunder, it is strongly advised to head indoors. Sometimes lightning can be seen without thunder. This is often referred to as heat lightning, which occurs when a thunderstorm is too far away, but folks can still see the lightning. Lightning is extremely dangerous and comes with many risks. If you get caught outside in a storm, try to find some indoor shelter. But stay away from electrical cords, as almost 1/3 of lightning strike injuries occur indoors. And don't engage in water-related activities or outdoor sports either, as those can be unsafe. Remember to stay in shelter for 30 minutes after the previous sound of thunder, as it could save your life. Also interesting to know, according to the CDC, men are about 4 times more likely than women to get struck by lightning. And lightning strikes actually cause more deaths on the weekend, specifically on Saturday. I'm meteorologist Emily Santum.
The Texas Forest Service has brought in dozens of aircrafts from across the state to help in the fight against rampant wildfires. Andrew Freeman is in Austin to give us a closer look at super scoopers and why they are so effective.
Just a giant yellow beast. It's made to fight fire. That's all it's made to do. That's all it does.
Alec Kirby has been a super scooper pilot for 2 years.
We've been flying every day while we're on shift. And so all of the guys here that fly and gals, we love flying. There's not many people here who look at it just as a job.
His plane is one of 30 brought in by the Texas A&M Forest Service just a couple weeks ago to help fight wildfires across the state.
95,000 football fields worth of land has been burned so far. The bulk of that has actually burned in the last 6 to 7 weeks.
Associate Director and Fire Chief Wes Moorhead says taking the fight to the air helps control the fires with excellent precision.
They are well received on the fire line. As an instant commander, as a firefighter, when you see aviation assets like the super scoopers come, you know that action is going to be taken on that fire. You know that help has arrived.
The super scoopers use water from nearby lakes for rapid delivery. They can carry 1,400 gallons of water, the equivalent of 3 fire engines.
Really, if you have a lake nearby, it's the best plane for it because you can just hit the lake, hit the fire over and over and over.
Alex says the hard work happens on the ground, but the real joy is doing what he can to help.
We don't put the fires out. We just kind of hold it and keep it until those guys can get on the ground, dig lines, push a dozer line, whatever it takes.
And speaking of airplanes, contrails from airplanes have a surprisingly large impact on our climate. So the folks with Google Research teamed up with American Airlines and used AI to try to reduce contrails. Emily Gracie spoke to Google to find out how this worked and if this study was successful.
Contrails are those thin, wispy clouds you often see behind aircraft. They're actually nothing more than ice clouds that form under certain temperature and humidity conditions. The really interesting thing is that they have a large impact on our climate. Recent studies have shown that they could be up to 35% of aviation's total warming impact.
So tell me about the study and how it was formed and what was done during the study.
The study was a joint undertaking, again, between American Airlines, Breakthrough, and Google Research. So it was 70 live flights over about 6 months. So we take our kind of AI-based approach of pull in this large data set of satellite images, pull in weather data, pull in those weather forecasts, and then pull in flight data. And we basically create this forecast that the pilots then have on their iPad so they can see where we believe they would form a contrail if they flew through, and then they make their decisions, obviously in the safety envelope. They make their decisions of, can I go above it? Can I go below it? Can I avoid that region? And that's what we actually did in the test. So
how did you find out if this actually reduced contrail? Was there somebody like looking out the back window? How do you measure this?
Yeah, that's actually a really large area of research in its own. So we had the luxury of having NASA's GOES 16 satellite constellation. So what we can do is, using that satellite, we can combine that with our AI algorithms, these satellite images, and see flight by flight, did we see a contrail created by that flight or not.
To find out more about the study, including if and when airlines may put this into practice, check out the longer version of this interview on YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk. And time now for a short break. But first, let's take flight over Griffith Park in Los Angeles, California.
Well, good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Phil Kelly. We have some comfortable temperatures back into the upper Midwest. A cold front going to bring some rain through the Great Lakes area today. Temperatures into the low 80s into Columbus and into Cincinnati with some late day showers and storms. That rain moves out of here. We'll start to see that those pleasant temperatures in the Ohio Valley. Do have some heat going to build into through the Midwest and upper Midwest. Then the heat is on through the weekend.
And a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Our forecast today across the region, and we are looking at a real hot day. A number of heat advisories, excessive heat warnings that are active through the day. Look at those temperatures across Texas, well over 100 degrees. Low 90s into Little Rock and New Orleans, about 95. We're heading to Friday's forecast, and again, day with real hot sunshine, really not much of a rain chance. We look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, above normal temperatures across the region, and a pocket of above normal rainfall in South Texas.
Well, hi there and good Thursday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Not a lot of change yet out west. Still cool right along the California coastline with 70 in the city by the bay versus 112. A hot one and kind of muggy at that around Phoenix because of the monsoonal moisture. Downtown Seattle cooling into the upper 80s. The next weather maker, a lot of heat in the interior combined with that monsoonal moisture for a stormy day across the Four Corners. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's so dry in parts of Texas that lakes are shrinking. One example is Canyon Lake, just north of San Antonio. It's lost more than 20% of its water in just the last year. Meteorologist Chris Suchan takes us to the receding shoreline.
And really sad to see the lake. It's such a beautiful lake, but boy, it's been taking a beating. Normally the water line would be up here, and instead you got to go about 100 yards out to get into the lake. And you can still get into the lake, obviously. There you can see there's some jet skis now launching. There's a pontoon boat out there. But there's only 5 out of 23 boat ramps that are open right now because of these water levels. And if you get in the lake, just always be mindful that there are trees, stumps under the water line in some cases near the shore that you won't have to worry about in a normal season. But there have been a lot of repairs around the lake with boats because of those hazards there. And eventually the lake will come back. You know, we have the hurricane season ahead here, tropical rains, and El Nino winters ahead, which should produce above normal rainfall. But in the meantime, question is how low does the lake go, and does it set another record?
Love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Summer is winding down, and that means we're getting close to apple season. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how the wild summer weather impacted some of the nation's apple crops. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Have a great day.